How's it going, everybody? Jeff Slakey from iFiber1, run the Daybreak Show, and KMAS. We're going to have a great conversation here today about Mason County LEAD, the Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program, talking with Undersheriff Travis Adams, Mason County Commissioner Kevin Shutty, Abe Gardner from Public Health, and Prosecutor Mike Dorcy about this program and what it means to the community. This is just one of two. We're going to be talking with the counterparts from the City of Shelton as well on this. And it's all can be found on our website at iFiber1.com. Here's the conversation. And we're back now. We brought in Mason County Commissioner Kevin Shutty. We're going to be talking with him in a second. Again, we're talking about the Mason County LEAD program, Law Enforcement Assisted Division here, as folks are getting some information on their diversions available. Let's start now with Undersheriff Adams, and let's talk about from the point of contact where one of your deputies meets an individual who may be in the middle of a crime on these that are listed, including trespass, theft 3, obstruction, just to name a few. So how does the deputy determine whether or not this person may be eligible for this program?
So the deputy has the option of either going through the normal process that they would, which is to arrest the person and take them to jail or file paperwork with the prosecutor's office, or if they determine that the person is eligible for the LEAD program, feels that they could benefit from the extra services and the ability to get counseling or Narcotics Anonymous or a whole slew of other things that are available through the LEAD, they can divert them into that program rather than booking them into the jail.
And is that something after they make the initial contact, they identify the person, get an understanding of what their potential background may be?
Yeah, certainly. In a small community like this, which Mason County still is, our deputies are regularly in contact with people multiple times rather than just once. And so there are certainly people who our deputies know would probably be eligible for this program if and when they come into contact with them.
Michael, let's talk a little bit about how this is a benefit to what you do on a daily basis. If folks are able to get this diversion and the counseling and availabilities to get the help they need, what kind of strains and stresses does that take off the prosecutor's office?
It depends on how you look at it, I suppose. It does involve another program to pay attention to. But it also hopefully gets individuals who are in the midst of, encounters with the criminal justice system, help and support that they need in order to stop having encounters with the criminal justice system. That's certainly one thing. And so to the extent it can be successful in that way, that absolutely reduces strain upon the office and the resources that we have. I suppose the other way that it does is by keeping a lot of those cases from becoming a court case. So while there's still some paying attention to the program intake at that level, because we still have the obligation to review those cases for charging, we may in fact have to find ourselves in a position where we might still charge a case that comes through the LEAD as a LEAD referral.
Because it's important to note, This is not a get-out-of-jail-free card. It's clearly stated in the documentation here. If someone does not follow through on the requirements put forth by them, that they could be fully charged to the extent on that case.
Yeah, that's part of it. Quite frankly, it also could be something where when we evaluate a case, there might be other things going on that maybe a deputy or an officer in the field doesn't know. Or a victim connection that we may end up having to make a charge. The real benefit, I think, to the system and to the county and to the individuals involved is at that pre-arrest or pre-booking stage, primarily for crimes that are nuisance in nature or lower, even if there are victims involved. Those aspects are considered by the officers in the field in making the referral in the first place. But it's a way to connect somebody with services immediately and get them that support on what mostly are lower level cases that tend to clog up the criminal justice system before they go sit in jail for the weekend and take up jail bed space and county resources in other ways. So Ideally, we won't be charging those cases. It's possible that we might, particularly if there's not follow-through. But it really is a way, I think, to funnel people towards services and support that they need that result in them continuing to find themselves in contact with the criminal justice system.
Kevin, we talked that this program and programs like this have been adopted across the state. What made this program attractive to the Mason County Commissioners to try to implement?
Yeah, first and foremost, we heard from the law enforcement professionals and public health folks that this was a model that worked. That makes supporting this kind of thing much easier from our perspective, and the fact that the legislature had appropriated some grant money to help get these kinds of programs up and running across the state helps even more. I think from my perspective as a commissioner, one of the things that I try to do when I go to work every day is make sure that throughout the criminal justice system in the county, we're providing options, for folks that have to work in that, and for people in our community, to know that, if a deputy or a city officer, continues to make contact with an individual who's in, some state of substance use or behavioral health crisis, that they have alternatives to be able to get that person help, and that ultimately is a benefit to the community. And there's a victim, part of this that our team has been really thoughtful about, in how to make sure that we're protecting victims' rights, but also getting offenders in the right track for services that, frankly, what we've done, not just here, but across the nation, has been, for the past several decades, have been asking our law enforcement to act more and more in capacity as counselors or behavioral health, substance use experts. This is a better way to go about that, and frankly, it just gives them another tool that they can use when they're out in the field to get people where they belong, and that's not the jail. Yeah. There's alternatives that exist, and I think right now, more than ever, we need to be leaning in to finding new ways to support law enforcement that protects them, protects the community, and gets offenders down a better path.
Travis, let's talk a little bit about this on the victim side. If a crime is committed against a person, it's only natural, I think, for some folks to want some recourse to this. But if an officer comes up and they see an interaction and then the officer offers this as an option, how much more do the deputies go talk to the possible victim here and explain what is happening here, so it doesn't feel like they may just be getting a slap on the wrist after they've committed a crime to somebody?
Yeah, certainly we have paperwork that explains the entire process for both the person who's on the suspect side and on the victim side. I think the important thing for law enforcement and what we would explain to the victims in these crimes is that this is another tool in the toolbox for law enforcement. It gives us an option, aside from booking somebody into jail, that may actually have a better outcome in the long term. It's the idea that providing services and helping the person with the underlying problems that they have, so that they don't have the propensity to commit more crimes in the future. And it's having a view of the horizon and seeing what a long-term outcome could be in those situations. And I think from the victim's perspective, if you point that out to them, that you want to have a long-term resolution so that there won't be more victims in the future, that this is a good option that we can exercise.
And Mike, when you kind of look at the ebb and flow of this type of thing, for a long time, people were big on really heavy enforcement and heavy lockup perhaps for all sorts of crimes, and now there are ways where it's kind of changed, and now there's these diversion types of programs. Can you talk a little bit about just how the overall prosecutions that you do, or just general numbers in crime in general, kind of react to these things? If you're able to help somebody on the front end, what does that save them down the road? These types of revisits and recidivism.
Yeah, I think that certainly you see it in the establishment of different. We have, just in Mason County, we have at least 3 different therapy courts: mental health, drug court, and then a veterans court, which is sort of like a mental health or drug court for veterans. I can't give you numbers. I don't know that I could give numbers specifically, but there's a real recognition, and I think it's an important recognition that, I would say it this way. Maybe I can recall one time somebody asking me, "Well, is it cheaper, right? Is it cheaper to run somebody through drug court than it is to have them sit in jail and then have them go through the process?" And the real answer to that, or maybe the lawyer answer to that, is I don't know, and it depends on how you look at it. But that isn't really the way we look at it. The question really is it a smarter use of the resources long term? And the grants, the grant funds that were mentioned were important here primarily because Abe's, it's been a real collaborative effort, but Abe's done a real good job of taking the lead and bringing us all together. Even though we all support it, we're all busy, and to have somebody to kind of crystallize that, and then the resources on the services side are so important. It doesn't do a lot of good to the community or to society to just not make the arrest or not make the referral if there isn't that corresponding piece of connecting with services and support to try to break that cycle, whether it's homelessness, whether it's housing or mental health assessment or chemical dependency assessment, treatment, follow-up, counselors, any kinds of things, any manner of issues that might be contributing to somebody's continuing to have contacts with law enforcement on the street. And just to add to what Undersheriff Adam said, it's important to us, certainly. I know law enforcement, and I can certainly speak for the prosecutor's office, to make sure that victim rights are also honored and recognized. And I think that we've already seen referrals start to come in, and I think that is a really good process. I think people do understand, and really that is why the prosecutor's office continues to retain both the authority and ability to charge a case even after it's come in as a lead referral if there are restitution issues or something that just can't be handled by the program, or that otherwise are a problem. And that's why one of the important things I think I see out of this is that connection between the time of law enforcement contact, and even if there is a subsequent prosecution, hopefully we've done something good in the meantime and better with our resources than have them sit in the jail over a long weekend or something to that effect.
And so just one more follow-up on that, Travis. When the initial contact happens and the person is determined to be eligible for the diversion program, they go into that program right away? Like there's no time, like you mentioned, a weekend in the jail and then Monday you start the program, or it goes right into it straight away?
Yes, that's precisely what it is. It's a diversion, meaning that we have phone numbers that we call, we make arrangements with people who are administering the program, and we make arrangements to essentially divert them from going to the jail and into the program where that process starts right away.
And these are grant monies that came in to help with this one, but if it appears and continues to be a success, Kevin, it looks like maybe the county continues to try to find some funding to continue this?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of what Mike was talking about. It's not necessarily going to be, there may be some cost savings, by doing it this way, and it might show up in different parts of the budget, but, we need to be strategic in how we make our investments. And if this is an effective program, then it would certainly really be important for us to figure out how we make this sustainable beyond those grant dollars. And so, I think it's all about, taking this time in the next year and seeing how the program plays out, seeing where we can make improvements, and then working as a commission with our law enforcement partners, the prosecutor's office, public health, to get it funded.
Mason County Commissioner Kevin Shutty, Prosecutor Dorcy, Undersheriff Adams, also talked with Abe Gardner earlier from Public Health. Thanks for the information here. We're going to continue these conversations too. We have a city component, City of Shelton, that we're going to be talking with as well here. But thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, as we wrap up this great conversation about the Mason County Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion Program, Abe, we're going to bring you back in here and just kind of talk a little bit more about the partnerships that you have, Olympic Health and Recovery Services. I know all across the county, Community Services is big involved with this. We talked with the prosecutors and the sheriff, but it's quite the partnership.
Yeah. So a little bit about how this particular program is set up. So I know you spoke with the our law enforcement partners, Undersheriff Adams, and maybe to just describe a little bit more about that process. So after somebody is determined that they're lead eligible, they're referred to the program. And we've partnered with a behavioral health agency, Olympic Health and Recovery Services, and they have a team that is comprised of a clinical supervisor, a substance use disorder professional, and a few case managers. What makes this program somewhat unique is those case managers are peers. So they are individuals that are in recovery from mental health or substance use, and so they are the ones that make contact with the individuals that are referred to the program. So it tends to lead itself to a bit more trust, right out of the gate, knowing you're talking to somebody that's kind of been there and that has found some solutions to move forward. So I think that's a really important part of the program as well. Another unique piece to this program is a lot of time with grants. There's a lot of grant dollars to put positions in place to develop the program. And it's one thing to refer somebody into a program and expect them to get better, but what are we doing to support that individual? This particular grant has dollars earmarked for services for those individuals. So if they need clothing, if they need food, or housing, or any of those details that really are going to help them move along the path to recovery, we've got some dollars behind those asks. So I think that's another really important part of this program.
Thank you. Abe Gardner again, Mason County Public Health, kind of wrapping up this portion of the conversation.